This final piece of is more an op-ed, but I'm going to include it in the intel. It's all crossing over now because of the sheer volume of information coming out that cross-references many pieces that we've put out previously in the show. But this is also a solution that will take us into a musical break. Now, I have put out several warnings recently regarding Trump and the US military. And then you see media publishing stories in the past week or so of crimes committed by the US military. For what the first one was the weaponized ticks story, and then the ET stories and the role of the US military had in them. But that wasn't all. Then NATO open source man Robert David Steele chimes in this week and outs the US military and others about military bases being used for child trafficking. All very valid, Mr. Steele, but why now? Well, it's simple. Because you are playing faction games, Mr. Steele. Our faction is better than their faction. No, Mr. Steele. They're all corrupt, murderous, harvesting agents of death, period. And what Steele and the media are doing is they're throwing the US military under the bus, as this show forecasted. And they are attempting to turn the public against the US military now, as they no longer need or want their efforts in global domination. You see how the plot works? It's problem, reaction, solution. They have the solution. They're waiting for the people to react against it. The problem now they have, because all their funds are being cut off, is it costs too much to run 900 plus bases globally. It costs lots of money, billions a day. And it also needs lots of spying or monitoring to keep them all in check. Well, of course, now they have millions of mercenaries. So you don't need bases or military. You just play the migrant card and push them into a country, like what was stated about Crimea in From Russia with Love 6 on Tuesday. It is estimated that there's 1.2 million of militants that are now stationed in Crimea, alongside NATO goons, and they're all ready to attack Russia again, overthrow Putin and install a fake monarch, Maria Romanova. Think about it logically. The US military was pushed into selling all of their equipment. Every ship, plane, tanks, rockets, the whole caboodle, to a Chinese consortium, not the government, and have been leasing it back for the last 2 years. That consortium is Rothschilds backed. And the Rothschilds have been looting countries and been building up NATO, private security groups known as contractors, real name mercenaries who'll do absolutely anything for money, whose policies was to use people who have been bombed out of their towns and cities, then give money to those people to go and fight abroad by the same programmed people who bombed them. It's a classic CIA tactic, and that Steele knows all too well, as given he was a private mercenary assassin at one point in South America. His words, not mine. America needs to wake up, and quickly. Russia also. and the plethora of hints in sub-intel in the last 3 or 4 shows, also in desperate, actually not desperate, but dire straits, is China. And I mean dire straits. All 3 countries have been looted heavily and have little in the way of real resources that can be monetized left. I gave a solution around 18 months ago that some people sniffed at, and that's okay. But to me it becomes more necessary by the day. Is it fairly radical? Absolutely. But we live in a very radical and critical times, and it needs strong leadership and a commitment from the people. Otherwise, we are going to collapse in chaos for an undetermined length of time. No, it won't be 3 days or 2 weeks. So here is my solution. And for those of hard of hearing, by my, I mean I only. What will have to take place in America is we will have to close down all American borders. No one in, no one out for a set time period while operations are being carried out. Cancel all global trade deals, including the stock markets, as this prevents transfers and further looting out of the country whilst the clean-up takes place. Cancel the UN, NATO and any other commissions or think tank groups operating under deceit to the public. Issue executive orders to reassemble the military, police and National Guard under America dictates, and that can all be done under the Emergency War Powers Act, and instruct them to go and arrest all the top-end criminals in one sweep. Send in a task force team to take over all media outlets, throw out the agency script readers and replace with people who will deliver real news and broadcasts approved by the President, with a series of shows detailing what has and what is going on. Remove all corporate and conglomerate advertising off the TV to avoid further lobbying takeover attempts. Allow total access to entrepreneur media outlets not connected to current MSN media projects, and the news to be based on not on propaganda or agency-backed scripts. The police to be brought back under the control of the government, not private security holders like Citadel or Vice. Take over Citadel, Vice, G4S and all other so-called private security groups, as all of them work for the Rothschilds cult. An executive order to cancel operations of all troops fighting abroad, arrange their return and use them to defend America and its borders, or employ them to go after all these dark forces people globally on the condition other countries request help to do so, which is a must. Trust is in short supply. Otherwise it will look like another of the clown invasion tactics again. We have much trust globally to regain, and this would be a start. Restore the organic constitution and delete all the core pirate versions. Restore the Bill of Rights, delete the Patriot Act and restore an American government, which we've not had since 1871. Remove all references to the United States. This country is not the US. US is a European power structure created by the dark forces. Go to all AIPAC and other Israel conducive offices. Remove all people, all contents and freeze their bank accounts or sequester those funds for the operations and close them all down. Find out who are the top-end contributors, who they were, and freeze their accounts until investigations are completed. Go into the Federal Reserve building, throw them all out, and take over the operations in connection with the Manor World Holding Trust. The lower-end people working in there can be used for the investigations and ongoing operations within that building. Issue a new American currency backed by the assets contained within the Manor World Holding Trust and our own borders, with no references to the United States, notes or other debt instruments to be placed on the new money. No more 10% costs per dollar, saving the country a massive amount each year. 10% of it costs America 10% of every dollar that comes out of the Federal Reserve. Go into the IRS building, throw out all top CEOs and management and take over their operations, implement the new tax structure already worked on and handed over previously to you to implement. Take all funds collected illegally out of the IRS and give it back to the people in the form of rebates. The new taxes will only go to America, not the Crown or other Rothschilds slush fund accounts. Go into the US Treasury and the AU Treasury plus other shell treasuries and remove all top CEOs and management, take over all operations in connection with the Manor World Holding Trust. Again, the lower end people in there can stay in their jobs and help with the investigations within the building. Eliminating several treasury shell companies will also have a huge savings on government spending. Go into the UN building and close it down until further notice. It can be used to notify the rest of the world of what is going on with real people talking common sense, not puppets on a string repeating scripted narratives and agendas. The Manor World Holding Trust has 6 seats in the UN Council. Go into Silicon Valley, strip it all down and never allow one consortium to run that type of project with no oversight, which is an actual national security issue, ever again, and deal with the clowns connected to the CIA and NSA in that industry. Close down Google and Microsoft, 2 giant clown conglomerates that has cheated, lied, spied and looted this country beyond all reason. We have other solutions to not require either of them, and they are ready to roll out also. The last 2 items will create more jobs and eliminate flagrant national security issues. Cancel all foreign aid, all grants to charities until they clean up their act also. All of them are vulture capitalists, harvesting funds off people under false pretences. The lower end people who work in those charities can carry on doing the real work within those organisations of helping people and animals. Currently, they are helping only themselves at the top end. How can you say you are a charity worker and claim $300,000 to $1 million a year in paychecks? No, you're just self-serving, greedy bastards. That is your correct term, not charity worker. This will save huge amounts of funds that can be used elsewhere for better purposes. Go into the FBI, CIA, DHS and NSA and rout out anti-American and anti-life peoples. Scale down agencies, as most are only spying on the American public. The NSA can be eliminated entirely, as it's just a sub-office of the GCHQ and Crown operations. The staff not immersed in Crown operations can be diverted into many new jobs investigating each department for misappropriation and clown operations. This will save huge amounts of wasted public funds. Create a task force and go into every so-called research centre and assess all projects and experiments going on in those facilities. Remove clowns weaponising anything against the public. All research in the future must be for the benefit of all people, living beings, plant life and the planet only. Eliminate permanently the rest. This again will save huge amounts of wasted public funds. We must quickly set up manufacturing and agriculture with the goal of the country becoming self-sustaining with no imports forthcoming due to the cancelled trade deals. We have much of that ready to roll out. As other countries follow suit of cleaning out all of their filth, we can reintroduce trade deals, travel, currency exchanges and partnerships with those countries as appropriate. So where will the funds come from? Well, the country itself will have massive savings with no Federal Reserve, and also the announcement of the elimination of their alleged debt. It's all being paid. So no fake interest payments per day going out every day will make a start. Great savings will be made on government spending as each department is overhauled using the staff within those organisations. There has already been made massive savings in government spending due to the blocking of over half the funds going out the Pentagon back door. Finally, the Trust has stated it will fund this country until it becomes self-sufficient, which is estimated to be 3 to 5 years. We have the assets, we have the wherewithal to change this country and subsequently the world towards a better path. The question remains, are you?